Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Becoming Her, a weekly personal growth update where I share with you behind the scenes of what it looks like for me to go after a goal that I'm currently working on. I share with you all of the thoughts that I'm having, the emotional things I'm having to work through, all of my failures. You're getting to see someone in the process of becoming right here on YouTube weekly. My name is Clarissa. I am the CEO and founder of She Rocks at College, an academic life coaching company for college women who want to earn better grades while still having study-free weekends. And if you are new to this series, I'm basically working on a goal to work with 100 college women in a 12-month period while also earning $100K for the work that I do, through the work that I do as an academic life coach. This is what I call my becoming goal. The goal that I am working on becoming the type of woman who can achieve it. And we are on, I think, week 5 of me sharing the behind the scenes. And we're on week 5 and I still don't have any sort of format for this episode. And I actually didn't even do my weekly review that I do at the end of every week, where I take a look at what worked, what didn't, and what I'm going to change moving forward. So we're going to do all of that here live together. So basically what's working right now for me is something that I don't want to be doing, something that's really uncomfortable for me to do, but that I am choosing to do because I know that it's going to I'm just taking a look at the comments. I know that it's going to take me closer to where it is that I want to do, where I want to be. So I am lying in wait. Okay. I want you to just think of a lion lying in wait for the gazelle who's eventually going to come, and that lion is going to have one hell of a meal. That is me right now. I am being asked to take a huge pause in certain areas of my life. And when I say pause, I don't mean quit. I don't mean stuck. I don't mean that I'm not taking action. I don't mean that I'm taking a step back. What I mean is trust. I am being asked to trust deeper than I have ever trusted before. I am experiencing things in my life that I have not experienced before, that I have no idea how to navigate through, that I have moments where I think, can I get through this? Am I going to get through this? Will this be the end of this season of my life? And I have to consciously choose not to run. I have to consciously choose not to try to fix. I have to constantly choose not to go into this fight or flight response. I have to constantly choose to stay with the discomfort, not to try to numb it, run away from it, do anything and everything that I can do to try to change the situation. But I'm really being asked right now to be with what is, to actually learn how to trust. What's super funny about this is at the beginning of this year, in January, I had joined this mastermind. It was called the Confidence Coaches Mastermind, and it was run by a life coach called Amy Latta. And what's so interesting is that when I joined that mastermind, I joined the mastermind with the intent to learn how to trust myself as an academic life coach, to learn how to trust in my decision making, to learn how to trust in my coaching skills, to learn how to trust in how to run a business, to learn how to trust in how to manage finances in a business. Like, I joined the mastermind knowing that it was going to require me to rely deeper and more heavily than I ever have before on myself, because the mastermind, it didn't have any sort of like teaching or anything, like there was no process. There was, but there wasn't. The process was basically rely on yourself, trust your own thinking, trust your own emotions, etc. So there was no like template. There was no step-by-step process. There was none of that. Every week that I was part of this mastermind, it ran for 6 months, from January until June. Every week that I was in this mastermind, I was just getting coached on my thinking and being asked to feel things, and that was it. I built the most confidence and belief in myself that I've ever had. And what's interesting now is that I am in a position where I just had my final one-on-one coaching call with my current life coach. And we've decided to pause in our coaching because of some things that are going on behind the scenes for me that are not allowing me to continue. And it is scary because in me, I have this belief, okay, that if I'm not constantly working with someone, I'm not constantly working with a coach one-on-one, or if I'm not constantly a part of some type of coaching group, that I cannot grow and that I cannot get to the next level. Notice the juxtaposition here. I started this year with the intent to learn how to fully trust myself, to lead myself to the things it is that I desire within my business. And now I'm actually being placed in a position where I'm forced to do that. And I'm scared because I haven't been here before. Now, I'm still in a coaching container, but it's not focused on business. I'm in a mastermind that's called the Pleasure Portal Mastermind, which is all on intimacy, creating intimacy and connection within relationships to yourself, to your life, those types of things. Very different, right? Up until this point, I've been in business for about 6 years. I've been running my business for 6 years. I've always been a part of an online program or a coaching container, or I've had a business coach or something like that since the inception of my business. And when you're in this sort of life coaching world, business coaching world type of situation, it is often fed into you, right? The culture is that you should always be working with the coach because the coach is going to help you get to the next level. And I've always had at the back of my mind this question of like, well, what happens if you decide that you sort of want to lead yourself, that you want to learn how to trust yourself and not always work with the coach? And I never actually put myself in that position before because I always had this fear that if I wasn't working with someone, I'd never make it to the next level. And so here I am in this situation. I just made this decision this past weekend. I sent my coach a message over an application, Voxer. It's like a walkie-talkie app. And I was like, hey, listen, I think I'm actually going to need to pause coaching. I don't want to have to do this. I'm kind of angry that I have to do this, but I know that it's right. It feels right in my body. And again, had I not been in the current circumstance that I am in, just financially, I'm not able to continue working with her in this season of my life. She asked me this question: what if this was the best thing that ever happened to you? What if this moment in time, where it feels like nothing is working, where you feel like you're going backwards, where things aren't comfy and cushy like they were, where you're questioning like if things are going to turn around, where you're having to pause coaching, where you're having to look at and make decisions about things. The other decision that I had to make is part of the mastermind that I'm currently in. There was a retreat that was going to be held in California, and I decided not to go. I'm going to do the retreat virtually with the 6 other people who've chosen to do it virtually because of COVID. And again, I don't want to have to make this decision, but this is the situation that I'm in. And I could fight it. Like emotionally, I could sit here and fight it. I could wish it was different. I could try to will it to be different. I can sit and wallow in it, but instead I'm choosing to accept. I'm trusting myself to do what I need to do so that my nervous system, so that I am taken care of, so that I am not in a fight or flight response, but I am in a place where I feel neutral enough to make really wise decisions about what my next steps are going to be here. And so I decided to pause coaching with my coach this weekend. And I also sent a message to the mastermind, and I let the woman who's running the mastermind and the retreat know I'm going to be a part of the group of girls who are doing this virtually. And it's going to work out perfect because all of the things that we would have done while we were there in person, she's actually just setting us up with all those things here. So there was going to be like a hot spring day and like a spa day that we were all going to be doing together. She's just setting us up here with those same dates, but with our local spas. So I'm still going to get to have that very tangible experience. I'm just not going to be with the group of other 14 women who are a part of the mastermind, and some of them are international, and because of COVID restrictions they're not able to fly in and all of those things. But anyway, so one of the other things that I feel like I have lived a month in this past week in terms of like the emotional shit that I have walked myself through. One of the things that I'm really good at is holding myself through really tough shit. Transmuting emotions, alchemizing emotions, feeling emotions, and not letting them consume me. I'm incredible at that. I can hold myself through some really hard shit. And what I mean when I say that isn't that I push things aside or that I compartmentalize. What I mean is I know how to feel my emotions, how to actually process them, how to move them through my body so I can land on the truth. And one of the things that came through this weekend is a belief that I don't know if I had mentioned last week, but it definitely came through even louder this weekend when I was just doing my journaling that I do every single day. And I'm like looking at my journal right now, and it's dated 11/6/21. And I'm just gonna read to you from my journal entry. I feel like a burden to Elvis, who's my husband. I feel like a burden to the college women that are a part of my community on YouTube, my community on my email list. I feel like I'm just being tolerated, but not chosen. I feel like I'm just being tolerated, but not desired. I feel like I'm someone people need to worry about, or that people feel like they need to be responsible for. I feel like I can't be trusted to take care of myself. So people just put up with me until something better comes along. And so this narrative that I have about me being a burden on other people, that they need to worry about me, that really when I go deeper here, it's the things that I desire, the things that I want, put other people in a position where they can't have what they want, where they can't have what they desire. Every time I get what I want, someone else goes without. Every time I get what I want, someone has to sacrifice. There's this trade-off, right? if I send an email to my list, even though I'm communicating in ways that I can help, on the other end for the students, it's like, oh, here she is sending us another email being annoying, right? Here she is expecting us to just work with her, asking more of us, right? And I was like exploring some of this stuff. And a lot of it comes from my relationship with my mother. I have a mother wound that I have done a lot of healing around, but there's still some things that I have not touched. And in 2018 or 19, I actually went to trauma therapy around my relationship with my mom, and it helped me get to a place where I have, an amicable relationship with her today, and I just accept the way that she is, and I accept the ways in which she can love me, because that's all that she can provide right now. But I noticed that in that dynamic, in that relationship that I had with her, I kind of have taken on some beliefs around being able to trust myself and trust my desires and trust what it is that I want, because every time I had what I want, it just brought up in her where she lacked it, where she didn't get the opportunities that I had growing up. And so she always tried to make it about her. And so it would take away from my joy. It would take away from my desire, or she would take ownership of it. So it's like, I couldn't have it. I couldn't fully experience it, because if I did, it would make her feel bad. Or if I did something great, she would make it seem like the only reason why I had those things is because she was my mom, etc. And so I never got to fully experience my desires. And I'm talking about this very openly. I have nothing against my mom. Like, she's doing the best that she can based off of how she grew up, from the mother that she had, and my grandmother is doing the best that she could do with the life that she had based off, my grandmother was an orphan. It's like she didn't really have a mother, right? She grew up being a servant in other people's homes so that she could have room and boarding, because nobody would take her on because she was an orphan. And so she had to work for her food. She had to work for where she lived. And it's like when she had, her kids, her husband left her. And so she had to work out of the house. And my mom and her brothers and sisters basically had to raise themselves. And I'm sure that my mom has a lot of feelings of abandonment. And my mom is also gay, and she didn't come out until I was 21. So it's like, there's a lot going on there that I don't need to take on or go into, because that's her story to tell. But that dynamic there has definitely shaped my relationship with experiencing good, with my relationship and feeling safe with having everything it is that I desire. I talked about in either episode 1 or episode 2 of this series of how my mind always goes to the negative. My mind always goes to not having what it is that I desired. And that comes from not feeling safe in being able to have what it is that I desired because of these dynamics. And so what's interesting is the things that we don't heal, we just end up playing out. And so this sort of thing carried into my relationship with Elvis. And I remember a very specific moment where I had just graduated from college. So I have 2 degrees. I have a degree in health policy and health management. This is the story of how I failed out of 7 classes, had to be kicked out of my bio program. I switched to health policy and health management my senior year of college, and I had to complete a shit ton of credits to be able to even have that major. I had to fight to get my way in because the dean of that program was like, you're just switching because you failed out of bio. I don't want to let you into this program. It's a whole story. Anyway, so I had just graduated from this college, and I got a job at the words are escaping me. At a medical technology company. It was a software company, an EMR. So basically a software system for the medical field. Was paying me very well, more money than I had ever made in my life up until that point, which is what we all hope for when we graduate college. And then I decided to go back to nursing school. And it basically cut my income in like a third. I was working as a hostess in a restaurant and at a call center, and I think I made $1,000 a month, and that's how much I made all throughout nursing school. And so it caused Elvis to have to take a lot of the financial burden in our relationship. We were living together at the time, and I remember him saying, I wish you would have waited. I wish you would have waited to go to school. We would have been in a better financial situation, etc. And then I became a nurse, and I was making really good money as a nurse. And then I decided, guess what? I'm going to run my business full time. And so again, that changed our financial situation again, because of instead of having two consistent, stable incomes, if you are an entrepreneur or own a business or know anybody who owns a business, like, I am responsible for my paycheck. I'm responsible for marketing. I'm responsible for like getting money in the door in this business. So it's not always consistent, right? It's not like a reliable source of income in our situation. And so again, the same sort of narrative came up of like, I wish you would have waited until your business was at this point, etc. And so again, this story of like, I'm a burden. Every time I go after my dreams and my desires, it sets us back. It puts us in a worse situation. There's just more evidence piling on top of that story. All of this came bubbling up to the surface this past weekend. I had a good cry about it because I just let myself emote. I was like crying to my coach, and I'm just like, oh my God, I am a burden to my family. What am I doing to them? I'm like, taking away this beautiful life that Adelina could have. Why can't I just be the type of woman who like is okay with, being a nurse and having this very normal life? Why do I have to have these big goals and these big dreams? Why can't I just be happy with living the normal life that everyone else lives? And Elvis and I had a really intimate conversation this weekend, and in it, he said to me, I envy sometimes other people's wives who take time off to raise their kids until their kids are old enough to go to school, and then they return to their career. And of course it hurt to hear that. I mean, that was just like my worst nightmare coming to like face me like right head on. And I have to honor that. And I told him, like, also, you men assume that women enjoy doing that. Just because they do it, it doesn't mean that that's what they prefer to do. It's just maybe they didn't have a choice, or they felt like they didn't have a choice. And in this case, I always give myself choice. I always have choice. I don't have to do anything I don't feel like doing. And I let him know. I was like, listen, baby. Because he's so supportive, has been supportive from the beginning. And he also has thoughts and emotions and feelings about it. And it's his right to, right? I'm like, I would give anything sometimes to be that for you. To not have these dreams and these desires inside of me that hurt so much sometimes. Sometimes I cry just because my vision is so big and I feel like I can't hold it by myself. I'm getting emotional talking about it right now. Like, it just feels so big that I can't hold it. And it hurts so much because I can see it and I can taste it and I know I'm so close. And also having to just sit here and lie in wait because the time just needs to pass, right? The time just needs to pass. And it's holding it in that space in between where you're not quite there yet. And you know it's coming. And you just have to hold on a little while longer. Hold the vision. Stay in it a little while longer. And we think that in this place, that it's going to be like easy, and it's the hardest thing. It is the hardest thing to hold, I'm realizing, because this is the space that I'm in right now. And it's uncomfortable, like really uncomfortable. And I'm doing the work, the shadow work. I'm letting myself go to a place of, what if I am a burden? Right? What if that's true? What if it is true that when I desire something, it means someone else has to sacrifice? looking at that part of myself, and instead of trying to break myself away from it, right? Instead of trying to numb it, I guess is the word, or pretend that it's not there, or change it, and trying to integrate it, trying to make it part of myself, right? So I do what I do. I looked up the word burden and I read the definition. And then I also looked up the antonyms. What's the opposite of that? The opposite of it is a blessing. It's a benefit. It's ease. It's an advantage. It's an asset. It's an enhancement. So the journaling questions that I have been processing since this past weekend is, how are my desires and me having everything it is that I want a blessing to other people? How am I a blessing to other people? How are the emails that I send to students a blessing? How are they an asset? How are they enhancing their lives? How is me having everything it is that I want an asset to Elvis and to our family? How is it the opposite of a burden? The beauty of my life and the work that I do, and when I say the work that I do, I'm not necessarily just talking about the work that I do with students, because the work I do with students is the work that I do on myself every single day. Is I am willing to go into the depths of myself, to feel everything, because I know that I'm going to emerge stronger, better, wiser, magnetic. I understand the power of my emotions, because our emotions, they contain so much wisdom and codes and truths. And what came out of this weekend for me is that I am a fucking gift to the world. I am such a blessing. I'm a blessing to this space, this academic space. I'm a blessing to my husband. My daughter is so lucky to have a mom like me who is willing to look at her ugly, who is willing to look at her ego, who is willing to admit when she is wrong, has done something wrong, and does the work to rectify, to repair. It's what I love the most about my relationship with my husband, is that we're both willing to go there, to say the uncomfortable things, to have the hard conversations, to tell each other what we're really feeling and experiencing. And at the beginning, we didn't always say it in the kindest ways and the most eloquent ways, but we've definitely learned now how to communicate in a way where we're not harming the other. And if we do, because we're human, and as humans we slip up, we're willing to say we're sorry, to do the repair work, to get that intimacy back on board. And by intimacy, I'm not talking about the sexuality, although that is nice, but what I'm talking about is that vulnerability piece, being real, raw, and honest with each other, even when it hurts, even when it's uncomfortable to hear and to hold and all of that. And it's, again, the mastermind that I'm in right now is called the Pleasure Portal Mastermind, and it's all about intimacy work. It's all about doing this deep work with yourself. I'm really good at this already, and I'm so excited to spend the next 9 months diving deeper into that work and building even more intimacy with myself. I still have 2 spots open for my one-on-one coaching. Okay, so that goal is still not met. I haven't had any new students enroll into my group coaching program, Educated: The Art of Becoming a Good Student, right? And that's how I earn my income with my business. And it's so easy for me to, it could be so easy for me to sit here and freak out about finances and freak out about all these other things. Instead, I'm choosing to focus on what I have, where I'm sufficient, my bills are covered, right? Thankfully, my husband's work pays him really well, and we're able to live off of that. But my business expenses are covered with my business. And I'm choosing to believe that the best is yet to come. I'm choosing to hold the vision, even though right now I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen. My job is just to trust. And the thing about trust, to build it, you have to trust. It's the same thing with faith. Faith isn't faith until it looks like it's not going to happen, and you choose to still believe. If you knew it was going to happen, it's not faith. If you could see the steps in front of you, it's not faith. It's not trust. Trust is, I have no idea how this is going to happen, when it's going to happen, if it's going to happen, but I'm taking the steps towards it anyway. Believing that it's possible anyway. And that's what came up for me this week. And so what I've committed to for the month of November, it's Scorpio season. Scorpio is all about shadow work, all about going deep, all about feeling the hard emotions, having the hard conversations, and all of that, is doing the deep shadow work. So one of my good friends, Tori, actually messaged me because I was having this conversation with her and everything that was coming up and the whole burden story. And there's so much more like to that story in terms of my mother and things that I don't want to get into because it involves her, and that's her story to tell, my mother's story to tell. But I was having this conversation with my friend Tori, and she was like, I want to challenge you to something. I want you to, like, for the next month, just take up as much space, be as needy and as needy as you can be. Like, ask for everything, be the biggest burden that you can be on other people's lives. Like, just have people be responsible for you on purpose, just to see what happens. If you were to fully own this as like your thing, how can you take up the most amount of space, be the neediest, like be the biggest burden on purpose? And so I'm playing with this idea. I'm playing that this is what shadow work is. It's owning these parts of ourselves that feel really yucky and uncomfortable or sad or like we're ashamed of, etc. Right? And in my case, like, I don't want to be a burden to other people, or, and I'm not saying that I am, right? But this is like the story that I'm telling myself. So I'm going to fully lean into it and just see what happens. Just see what happens. So I'm starting to do it inside of my mastermind group. Like, every time I have a question or need coaching, and like what I would normally do is, oh, I'm not going to ask that, or I'll save it until my turn on the coaching call on Tuesday, or I already like asked for coaching like yesterday. I'm not going to ask for coaching again. I don't want to like over, ask for too much. So I'm going to ask for a lot this month just to play in that energy. I'm going to be a burden on purpose. And then the other piece of it, right? Because there's the shadow, but then the shadow side is the burden piece. But the light side of it, right, is the blessing piece. So the other thing that I'm going to continue to work on, because this is something that I had mentioned in the other series that I have been doing, is I'm putting myself on what I call a brag diet. Now, this came from one of my previous coaches, Julia Wells, and she got it from Mama Gina, who wrote the book Pussy, a Reclamation. And it's encouraging us to brag on ourselves, to brag on everything. And so I'm putting myself on a brag diet. So every day until the end of November, I'm basically going to be bragging on myself. I brag that, etc. Like yesterday, I wrote inside of my journal, I brag I have a husband who absolutely adores me, who wants to give me the world. And all he asks for in return is to be willing to validate him and his feelings. So simple. I brag I'm the queen of showing up. I'm the queen of consistency. I wrote on my Instagram that I brag that I am so good at being consistent that in areas where I can't outspeed someone, I'll still win because I will outlast them. Because I'm so persistent and I'm so committed and I'm so consistent. I keep going no matter what. It's my superpower. It's the reason why I eventually have everything it is that I desire, because I just don't quit until I get it. And then my coach today on our final call, she asked me, how could I let this be easy? What would I do if I didn't have to earn everything all the time? Because that's the other piece that comes along with this whole, I feel like I'm a burden, is that then I feel the need to like earn and prove myself. That I always have to work for everything. That things don't just come easy. And so playing with the energy of being a burden on purpose, playing in the energy of like bragging and really letting myself feel the joy and have the joy no matter who it pisses off, no matter who it annoys, no matter who it makes them feel less than. I'm just going to brag and celebrate everything, regardless of who's around, who's watching, who hears, who's getting offended. I'm just going to be fully in that energy. And then I'm also not going to try to earn approval or earn the right to be in the room. I'm not going to prove in my business. What this looks like is I'm not proving to anybody anymore whether or not I am the coach for them. I'm not earning people's love anymore. I'm doing the bare fucking minimum. I'm doing the bare fucking minimum. I'm letting it be easy from an effort standpoint. I'm tired of doing all the things to prove that I'm good enough. I'm going to let my energy do the talking. I have a list of things right here that if I do those things, it was enough for the day. Okay? As long as I do one of these things on this list, it was enough for the day. I'm letting it be easy. I'm showing up like I know my worth. I'm showing up like I was born fucking worthy because I was. My daughter taught me that. She doesn't have to do anything. She deserves it just because she exists. And if she gets that, because she was born, guess what? I fucking get it too. And so do you. And so does every other person in this world. We don't need to do anything anymore to prove or earn the things we have. We get to have them just because we get to have them. If the desire was placed in you, it was placed there because you were meant to have it. You don't have to do anything to be worthy of it, to earn it, right? So I'm coming at it from that energy. Now, again, this doesn't mean I'm not going to still send emails. This doesn't mean I'm not going to still do YouTube videos. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to tell people that I'm an academic life coach and tell students how to hire me. But I'm not doing it from the energy anymore of trying to prove that you should. I already know that I'm a great and incredible coach. the energy behind the emails that I send, behind the things that I do, the videos that I create, is I'm a blessing. I'm showing up today because I just fucking want to serve. If you want to go deeper in that work with me, it's available to you. I'm trusting you to know what you want, to lead yourself to it. Right? That's leadership. So, again, I covered a lot today from my life. This is really uncomfortable, guys, to like be sharing these types of things. And I'm doing it. I want to throw up every single time with the things that I share. But I'm going to keep doing it because I know that it's helpful. I know it's conversation that I wish I was having with more people. Thankfully, like, I pay to be in rooms where conversations like this are happening all of the time. But outside of those rooms in which I pay in, the world doesn't have these types of conversations. The world isn't this honest. The world isn't this vulnerable. The world isn't this real. And I know that more of us, there are more people outside of me that are desiring this. And so I'm so, like, I honestly, at 11:30, I was having soup on the couch crying because I was watching the final episode of The Maid. And the last 5 minutes of it just like took me out. The reason why I was bawling was because I realized the impact of the work that I do. The last scene was her saying that people are quick to not bet on the single mom putting herself through college. But what they fail to see is everything it took to get here. And she went and listed out everything. If you haven't watched the show, watch it. But she went out and listed out everything that she had to endure and trade off to get to the point it is that she was in. And all the help that she had along the way. And everything that she had to overcome. And I was crying on the couch because the company that I've built creates those opportunities for women like her. Women in situations where earning an education is the only way that they get out of really shitty circumstances. It's a stepping stone for like so much. And then I was just thinking about how the decision that she made for her life and her daughter, the impact that it was going to have on her daughter. And it's like, it's the ripple effect. Like, that's what keeps me going, y'all. Because if I were to quit doing what I do, knowing how needed this work is, do you know how many women I would be letting down? Do you know how many women don't get to live a life that they've always wanted to live? Because I couldn't get over my own fears and get out of my own way. There's too much on the fucking line. So I continue to show up on the days that it's hard, and on the days that I doubt myself, and on the days where I feel like no one's listening and no one cares. Because I know what happens if I don't. I see the life that women live when they have dreams inside of them that they never get to play out. I see it in my mom. And I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to get an education. Because it made me the woman that I am today. Like, sometimes I ask God, like, why did you put me through the things that you put me through? And it's for this moment. For what I've created and what I've built with this business. And I hate it. Is like, I don't like crying in front of people, but I do it often. I say it so often, like the vision that I have for this, and like the women. Amy McNeil is on here right now, and she was one of my past students. And I think about her often and how she's a nurse now because of the work that we did together. And I have so many students who at one point failed, and because of working with me, because of my company, because of the content that I put out, they didn't quit. They kept going, and now they have the career that they've always wanted. And women like that are the reason why I continue to show up, why I push past my own fears, why I push past my own discomfort, why I show up. And I felt all of that this weekend. I moved through all of that this weekend. And that's my update for this week. I didn't think I was going to cry so much today or at all, but here I am. I will see you all this Thursday. Funny enough, this Thursday's video is on how to show up for yourself as a student. And so I did not plan it that way. It's just divine timing. I'm always in alignment. God always puts me exactly where I need to be, gives me the message that I need to say, and I just show up and say it. So that's happening this Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then my weekly update will happen next Tuesday at 2 p.m. So we'll see what comes up. Again, I don't have a format for these. I just come on and share, and what comes through, comes through. But this Thursday will be like a teaching YouTube video on how to show up for yourself as a student. So make sure that if you're not already subscribed to the channel, you subscribe. That if you feel bad for me because I cried on this video, that you subscribe because of that. I don't care. Just subscribe so that you get all my content. And I will see you all next Tuesday. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for creating this space for me to be vulnerable and to share and be so open. For those of you who've been watching live, Amy, Elizabeth, and Red Lip Marketing, which I haven't caught your name yet, thank you so much for being here with me, and I hope you ladies have a beautiful rest of your week.